Fear is nothing more than a story we tell ourselves. It is not real. It lives in the mind, in the quiet whispers that say you cannot, you will fail, you are not enough. And yet, the moment you face it, the moment you see it clearly, it loses its power. Fear only exists when you allow it to exist. It is not a wall, it is a shadow. And shadows disappear when you shine your light. To become fearless, you do not fight fear. You do not try to destroy it. You welcome it. You watch it. You understand it. Fear is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It shows you what you care about, what you desire, what you have yet to embrace. The moment you stop resisting, the moment you stop running, fear transforms into courage. Not the loud courage of stories, not the courage that seeks recognition, but the quiet courage of simply standing, of breathing, of moving forward even when the ground feels uncertain. Do not wait for fear to disappear. It will never disappear completely. The world will always present the unknown, the uncontrollable, the unexpected. But your strength is in your presence. Your strength is in your willingness to face what is uncomfortable, to step into the space where your heart trembles, to do what is right even when your mind says no. Every small step you take against fear builds a habit, a muscle, a rhythm of life that fear cannot touch. Fearless is not born, it is grown. It grows when you trust yourself. When you trust that whatever comes will not break you. When you trust that life is bigger than your worry, that life will guide you, that the ground will support you even if your mind screams danger. Each time you face a moment of fear and move, you plant a seed. Each time you allow yourself to act despite the trembling, you water it. And slowly, without you noticing, you become someone who walks with fear, not someone who is chained by it. Silence is your ally. Breath is your anchor. The mind will panic, the heart will protest, but your body, your presence can stay. Watch the fear rise like a storm, let it pass through you and keep walking. Life does not ask for perfection. Life asks for presence. And presence dissolves fear more than any strategy or mantra. To become fearless, you must let go of the need to be safe, the need to be right, the need to control. You must let go of the story that says something outside of you has power over your peace. The real power is always inside. The real power is in your choices, in your steps, in your refusal to let fear decide your path. Step forward. Step again. Fall if you must. Get up, breathe, walk. And in that movement, in that quiet insistence of life, fear cannot remain. Fear is not something to hide from. It is not a shadow to avoid or a storm to escape. It is a signal, a message from life. A mirror reflecting what we have yet to embrace within ourselves. The moment we turn away from fear, it grows larger. The moment we run, it follows, sometimes quietly, sometimes shouting, but always present. To become fearless is not to deny fear, or to pretend it does not exist. It is to turn, slowly and deliberately, to see it for what it is, to acknowledge it fully, and to move forward anyway. Facing fear is not about being reckless. It is about being present. It is about recognizing that fear is a visitor, not a master. When you face it, you discover that its grip is not as strong as you imagined. You realize that what stands before you is not a wall, but a threshold, a doorway to growth, to courage, to life fully lived. Fear thrives in avoidance. It grows in the spaces we refuse to enter. It becomes louder in silence, sharper in hesitation, heavier in postponement. But when you step toward it, even in the smallest way, its power diminishes. Each step is a declaration, a quiet but profound statement to yourself that your life is yours to live. It may be a trembling step, a hesitant breath, a hand that shakes as it reaches forward. But movement, no matter how small, shifts the balance. Courage does not arrive suddenly like a storm. It is cultivated in the consistent, deliberate choice to face what makes your heart quicken and your mind resist. To face fear is to look closely at the stories your mind tells. The stories that whisper you are not enough, that say you will fail, that warn you of imagined dangers. These stories are not truth. They are patterns learned, habits of thought, echoes from the past. And the first act of fearlessness is to see them clearly, to name them, to watch them rise and fall like clouds across the sky. When you see them without judgment, without adding meaning, you strip them of their ability to control you. You realize that the fear was never outside you. It was never something you could avoid. It was a reaction, a reflection, a signal pointing you to the place where growth waits. There is a quiet power in simply facing fear. It does not require dramatics or grand gestures. It requires presence, attention, and honesty. It asks you to be still long enough to feel the trembling, long enough to acknowledge the racing heart, long enough to recognize the thoughts that urge retreat. And then it asks only for a single step. One step forward, one breath taken, one action chosen. The first step is always the hardest because it asks you to trust the unseen, to move through the discomfort, to choose life over hesitation. But once that step is taken, the path becomes clearer. Fear loses its size. The unknown becomes a teacher instead of a threat. You begin to notice that every act of facing fear strengthens a part of yourself that was always present, but always dormant. The part that knows it can endure, it can act, it can move through whatever life presents. Facing fear is not a one-time event. Life will always bring new challenges, new uncertainties, new moments when the mind screams to retreat. But with each encounter, with each decision to look at fear and not run, your inner landscape shifts. You become someone who is no longer defined by avoidance, but by engagement. You become someone who understands that fear is not the opposite of courage. It is its companion. You become someone who recognizes that true freedom lies not in a world without fear, but in the ability to walk alongside it, to acknowledge it, and still choose presence, choice, and action. Do not wait for fear to vanish. It will never vanish completely. Life will always ask something of you that feels uncertain. But in facing fear, you discover that it does not hold the authority you imagined. You discover that courage is not the absence of trembling, it is the presence of commitment. The decision to move forward, the willingness to experience life fully, even when the path is unclear. Step toward fear again and again, and you will see it shrink. You will feel your heart expand, and you will know the quiet joy of living fully awake. Fear is not your enemy. Many spend their lives trying to escape it, to silence it, to make it disappear. But the truth is that fear carries wisdom. If only we choose to listen, it arrives not to punish, but to show, not to stop, but to illuminate the places within us that are untested, unexplored, or hidden. Fear is a guide, a subtle messenger that whispers truths about what we value, what we desire, and what we have yet to confront in ourselves. To see it as an enemy is to remain blind to its lessons, to tighten our grip on avoidance, and to keep our hearts and minds in the shallow spaces of comfort. Understanding fear is the doorway to freedom, because when we understand it, we no longer need to run, no longer need to resist, and no longer need to let it define the limits of our lives. When fear arises, it is pointing to a boundary. It is highlighting the edge of your current world, the threshold where growth waits. It is not there to stop you from moving forward. It is there to show you where courage will be born. Every time your chest tightens, every time your stomach twists, every time your mind races with what-ifs, there is a message embedded in that sensation. Fear is telling you, here is a place you have not been. Here is a choice you have not made. Here is an opportunity to step closer to yourself. To treat fear as an enemy is to fight the very signpost that can lead you to your own strength. To treat it as a guide is to walk with it, to feel its signals, and to use them as a compass pointing toward growth, understanding, and life lived fully. Understanding fear requires attention and presence. It requires slowing down long enough to feel it without judgment. The mind will want to label it as bad, dangerous, or wrong. The body will want to tighten, flee, or resist. But in the quiet observation of fear, Without adding meaning or urgency, a shift happens. You begin to see that fear is not a stopping point, it is a signal. You begin to recognize that the discomfort it brings is temporary, but the insight it offers can last a lifetime. Fear reveals the edges of our potential, and when we learn to read it with curiosity instead of panic, we can navigate life with clarity, courage, and grace. Fear as a guide is patient. It does not demand that you leap immediately, nor does it condemn hesitation. It shows up repeatedly, gently reminding you where the growth lies. The more we honor it, the more it becomes a teacher rather than a tormentor. You may feel the same tremor in your chest when facing a difficult conversation, a career risk, or a personal challenge. But if you approach it as a guide, you can ask, what is this moment showing me? What truth am I avoiding? What strength exists inside me that I have yet to access? Each time you answer these questions, each time you walk even slightly toward the edge it highlights, you discover that fear is not there to harm you. It is there to invite you into a fuller understanding of yourself, your choices, and the life you are capable of creating. The way of understanding fear is also the way of presence. It is the recognition that life is not meant to be lived in avoidance, but in attentive engagement. Fear points to what matters, and when we face it with calm, awareness, and reflection, we find that the lessons it carries are more valuable than any comfort we might cling to. It teaches patience, resilience, discernment, and above all, courage that is quiet but steady. When we see fear as a guide, we no longer fight life. We no longer resist what comes. We no longer measure our worth by the absence of trembling. Instead, we learn that the trembling itself is a signpost, a teacher, a companion along the path of self-discovery. Understanding fear is not a one-time revelation. It is a lifelong practice, a way of walking in the world with awareness, trust, and openness. The more we engage with it, the less it controls us. The more we see it as guidance, the more it transforms from a source of anxiety into a source of wisdom. Each time we encounter fear and pause to ask, what is this showing me? What am I resisting? What can I learn? We strengthen our ability to act, to grow, and to live fully awake. Fear loses its tyranny when we stop seeing it as an enemy and start seeing it as a teacher. When we understand fear, we step into life with clarity and courage. We move with awareness instead of avoidance. We choose presence over panic, insight over impulse, and action over retreat. And in this understanding, fear becomes a friend, a compass, a guide pointing always toward the life we are meant to embrace. Courage does not always arrive in grand gestures. It does not demand that we leap from the highest cliff or face the loudest storms immediately. Often, courage begins quietly, almost imperceptibly, in the small decisions we make each day to move forward, even when the path is unclear. Taking small steps in the face of uncertainty is the essence of becoming fearless. Life is rarely a straight line, and certainty is a luxury that few truly possess. The unknown is always present, and yet, to remain still, paralyzed by what might happen, is to hand your life over to fear. Each small step, no matter how modest, is a rebellion against the immobilizing force of doubt. Each forward movement builds confidence, reveals new paths, and gradually transforms the landscape of the impossible into the familiar. Uncertainty is not a reason to retreat. It is a call to engage. When you take even one small step, you are practicing trust. Trust in yourself, trust in life, trust in the unfolding of events. You do not need to see the whole staircase to begin climbing. You only need to lift your foot, place it on the next rung, and move with intention. Each step becomes a statement: I am here. I am willing. I am not defined by fear. The journey of fearlessness is not a race to an endpoint. It is a continuous series of small acts that affirm your presence, your agency, and your resilience. The mind will often resist small steps because it wants certainty. It wants guarantees that the next move will be perfect, safe, or recognized. But life rarely offers such assurances. The path of growth is inherently uncertain, and the willingness to move forward anyway is the practice of bravery. Each time you step towards something that frightens you, even slightly, you expand your capacity to face bigger challenges in the future. Fear shrinks not when we wait for it to vanish, but when we allow it to exist and keep walking. Small actions create momentum. They transform hesitation into habit, doubt into experience, and trembling into steady movement. Small steps also teach patience. They remind us that fearlessness is not a sudden arrival, but a gradual unfolding. You do not conquer uncertainty all at once. You do not silence every anxious thought with a single choice. Rather, you learn to move alongside it, to breathe while it is present, to act in spite of it. Each small decision to move forward becomes a lesson in resilience. Each moment of engagement with uncertainty strengthens the inner muscles of courage. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the distance between you and fear begins to widen. The space for doubt diminishes. What once seemed impossible becomes achievable. What once seemed frightening becomes familiar. The power of small steps lies also in their consistency. Life does not demand a heroic leap each day, but it does invite us to continue showing up, again and again, in the face of uncertainty. Each choice to act, each effort to move forward, is a brick laid in the foundation of courage. It is a pattern that trains the mind, steadies the heart, and quiets the anxiety that comes from overthinking what might happen. Small steps remind us that fear is not a permanent state. It is a sensation, a signal, and ultimately, a companion that can be acknowledged but does not need to dictate the terms of our life. Uncertainty is the natural state of existence. To live fully is to embrace it, to engage with it, and to move forward despite it. Small steps are the antidote to the paralysis that fear brings. They are proof that action, no matter how gentle, is stronger than inaction. They are evidence that life can be lived fully, even when the outcomes are unknown. Each movement forward builds trust in your own ability to navigate whatever arises, and each step, repeated over time, transforms hesitation into confidence, anxiety into clarity, and fear into a quiet, manageable presence. To take small steps forward despite uncertainty is to practice faith in yourself and in life. It is to choose participation over avoidance, engagement over retreat, courage over comfort. The accumulation of these small steps creates a life where fear no longer dominates, where hesitation no longer dictates choices, and where uncertainty becomes an invitation rather than a barrier. Step after step, day after day, you build the quiet, steady courage that allows you to face what comes with calm and presence. And in that ongoing practice, fear begins to dissolve, not because it has vanished, but because it has been met with the persistent rhythm of your forward movement. Trusting yourself is the foundation of fearlessness. The world will always offer opinions, warnings, and expectations, but the voice that matters most is the one within. That quiet, steady presence inside you, the part that has endured challenges, faced uncertainties, and survived storms, holds a wisdom that cannot be found elsewhere. To trust yourself is to acknowledge that you have what it takes. Even when the mind doubts and the heart trembles, it is to recognize that strength is not always loud or visible, but it is always present. Each time you pause to listen, each time you allow your inner guidance to lead, you step closer to freedom from fear. Fear thrives when we rely solely on external validation. It grows when we doubt our instincts, question our decisions, and seek constant reassurance. But the truth is that life is unpredictable, and guidance cannot always come from the outside. Your inner strength, cultivated through experience, reflection, and presence, is your most reliable compass. When you trust yourself, fear loses its authority. The uncertainties of life may still exist, but you no longer give them the power to immobilize you. You move with a quiet assurance, not because the path is guaranteed, but because you know that whatever arises, you can meet it, navigate it, and endure it. Self-trust begins with listening. The mind often carries noise, doubt, and fear, but beneath the chatter is a deeper voice that speaks with clarity. It does not shout or demand, it simply guides. Learning to hear this voice requires stillness, presence, and patience. It requires letting go of the need to control outcomes and the desire to know everything before taking a step. When you pause and attend to your inner knowing, you begin to see that you have faced difficulties before and emerged stronger. You have made choices that felt uncertain and yet led you to growth. Each memory, each experience, each moment of endurance is proof of your resilience. Trusting yourself is remembering these truths in the moments when fear rises and using them as anchors to move forward. Your inner strength is quiet but unyielding. It does not boast, it does not demand recognition, but it is always available. When fear calls loudly, this strength speaks softly, reminding you that you are capable, that you have survived before, and that you can survive again. To trust it is to align with life rather than resist it, to act from clarity rather than panic, and to choose presence over avoidance. Fear cannot overpower someone who trusts themselves because self-trust transforms fear from an obstacle into a signal. It becomes a guide, a reminder of what matters, and a teacher showing where courage is needed. Trusting yourself also requires patience. There will be moments of doubt, moments when fear feels overwhelming, and moments when every instinct seems uncertain. This is natural, because self-trust is not a state of perfection, it is a practice. It is a commitment to return to your inner guidance, to remember your capabilities, and to step forward even when confidence falters. Each act of trust, no matter how small, strengthens the connection between your awareness and your actions. It is through repeated practice, through gentle attention, and through persistent engagement that trust grows, solidifies, and becomes a natural response to uncertainty. When you trust yourself, fear transforms. You begin to see it not as a stopping force, but as an indicator of growth. You notice the moments when hesitation arises and respond with quiet confidence. You step into life with the understanding that mistakes are not failures, but lessons, and that uncertainty is not a threat, but an opportunity to discover the depth of your own resilience. Trusting yourself allows you to move with purpose, to act with clarity, and to embrace life fully, even when outcomes are unknown. The practice of trusting yourself also deepens presence. When you trust your inner strength, you are no longer pulled in every direction by worry, doubt, or external opinions. You are able to anchor in the present moment, to face what is, and to respond from a place of authenticity rather than reaction. This presence is the root of fearlessness. It allows you to navigate life with calmness, clarity, and courage. You no longer allow the imagined consequences of tomorrow to dominate today. You act from your truth, guided by the knowledge that whatever arises, you are capable, you are resilient, and you are whole. To trust yourself is to acknowledge that the power to move through fear lies within. It is to recognize that inner strength is always present, waiting to be accessed whenever needed. It is to step forward with quiet confidence, knowing that life is not a test to pass, but a journey to engage with fully. When you trust yourself, fear loses its dominion, and you discover the freedom to act, to grow, and to live awake and fully alive. Fear thrives in the mind when we live in the past or the future. It grows in the spaces where attention drifts, where imagination paints scenarios of failure, loss, or danger that may never come. The moment we bring our awareness fully into the present, fear loses its power. It cannot exist in the clarity of now. Fear lives in what might happen, in what has already happened, in stories we repeat to ourselves about our limitations and what is possible. But when we anchor in the present, when our attention rests in this moment, fear dissolves, revealing a space of calm, strength, and clarity. Presence is the antidote to fear, because it reconnects us to reality, to what is tangible, to the ground beneath our feet. the breath in our lungs, and the heartbeat that continues to remind us that we are alive. To stay present is not always easy. The mind resists. It wants to wander, to worry, to replay past mistakes, or to project into uncertain futures. It wants to inflate danger, exaggerate weakness, and convince us that inaction is safer than movement. But each time we notice this drift and bring ourselves back to now, we reclaim power. We anchor ourselves in the only space where life truly exists. The past is memory, the future is imagination, and the present is the only moment we can influence. Fear cannot survive here because it has no foothold in reality. It can only operate in the stories we tell, and when our attention is fully present, those stories lose their grip. Breath is a gateway to presence. The simple act of noticing the inhale and the exhale grounds the mind in the body, in this moment, in the reality of life as it unfolds. When fear arises, it often manifests in shallow breathing, tension, or restlessness. By returning to the breath, we invite attention back into the present, calming the mind, relaxing the body, and reducing the intensity of the fear. This practice is not about controlling fear, but about observing it without judgment, letting it exist, and holding attention steadily on the now. Presence does not remove fear instantly, but it diminishes its grip and creates space for clarity, discernment, and action. The body itself is a teacher of presence. Fear often creates sensations, tightness, heat, trembling, or racing heartbeat. These signals are not threats, they are information. When we feel them fully without resistance, without trying to push them away, we learn that fear is not dangerous, but transient. By staying present, we witness the rise and fall of these sensations, allowing them to pass through naturally. The moment of attention transforms fear from something overwhelming into something manageable. It teaches that fear is a temporary visitor, a passing cloud in the sky of consciousness, and that presence is the constant sky itself, vast, calm, and enduring. Presence also allows action. Fear often freezes us because we are caught in imagined outcomes. When attention is brought fully into the present, we see what is actually before us, what choices we can take, what steps are possible. Life demands engagement with the now, not speculation about what might happen. Courage emerges naturally when we act from presence, because we are no longer paralyzed by projections or regrets. Each small act rooted in awareness strengthens the connection between attention and movement, turning fear into a companion rather than a master. Mindfulness in action is the practice of staying present while moving through life. Whether it is a conversation that feels intimidating, a new opportunity that seems uncertain, or a difficult challenge that demands endurance, the principle remains the same. Attention to this moment transforms fear into clarity. By noticing the sensations, the thoughts, the emotions, and the environment, we ground ourselves in reality. This grounding dissolves imagined threats, reduces anxiety, and allows courage to arise naturally. Each act of attention is a victory over fear, a demonstration of inner strength, and a step toward a life lived fully awake. Presence is also a practice of surrender. It is not about controlling the moment, eliminating uncertainty, or making fear disappear. It is about allowing life as it is, meeting it with awareness, and responding rather than reacting. When we stay present, we discover that fear cannot survive our full attention. It retreats quietly, leaving space for clarity, resilience, and action. The mind becomes clear, the body steady, and the heart open. Fear loses its power because it cannot attach to what is already seen, felt, and experienced directly. To stay present is to live awake, to move through life with attention, and to recognize that fear only exists in absence of awareness. Each breath, each moment, each action rooted in now is a reclaiming of power. Presence allows fear to be observed, understood, and released. In this practice, we find the courage to act, the strength to endure, and the clarity to move forward. Fear cannot survive the light of full attention, and by choosing presence, We step into a life of fearless engagement with the world. Fear often grows in the space where we try to control life, where we cling to the illusion of certainty and safety. We imagine that if we plan carefully enough, if we anticipate every possibility, if we hold tightly to security, fear will disappear. But this is an illusion. Life is unpredictable. The unexpected is inevitable. No plan can cover every outcome. No preparation can guarantee absolute safety. When we cling to control, we give fear the power to dominate our decisions, our thoughts, and our actions. True fearlessness comes when we release this need, when we allow life to unfold without grasping, without demanding, and without the desperate attempt to manipulate every circumstance. Letting go of control does not mean recklessness. It does not mean abandoning responsibility or ignoring caution. It means understanding the limits of what you can influence and embracing the reality of what you cannot. When you release the grip on certainty, you create space for presence, clarity, and calm action. You move from reaction to response. You allow life to teach you through experience, rather than trying to dictate every detail in advance. In this release, fear loses its authority. Fear thrives in the illusion that we must prevent every possible outcome. When we surrender to the flow of life, fear is met with acceptance instead of resistance, and courage arises naturally. Safety is another illusion that binds the mind. We think that if we remain cautious, if we avoid risk, if we stay within the walls of comfort, we will be secure. But safety, like control, is temporary. Life's true nature is change. Circumstances shift, people change, the body ages, the world evolves. To anchor our sense of safety in anything outside ourselves is to build on unstable ground. The real safety lies within, in the knowledge that you can endure, adapt, and respond to whatever comes. When you recognize this, you no longer need to cling to external assurances. You find strength in your own presence, in your own courage, and in the trust that life, while unpredictable, is navigable. Letting go of control also allows trust to emerge. Trust in yourself, trust in life, trust in the flow of events. Fear diminishes when you no longer demand that life conform to your expectations. When you release the need for specific outcomes, the pressure of perfection falls away, and you are free to act from clarity and intention rather than from worry and resistance. Trust does not mean passivity. It means engagement without the burden of constant manipulation. It means stepping forward, making choices, and moving with awareness while understanding that some elements are beyond your grasp. In this space, fear loses its grip and freedom expands. The practice of releasing control requires observation and patience. Notice where your mind tightens, where it anticipates danger, where it tries to manipulate outcomes. See the moments when anxiety arises because life feels unpredictable. These are invitations to surrender, to release the illusion of mastery, and to anchor in presence. Each time you allow yourself to let go, you strengthen the capacity to move through uncertainty with grace. Each time you choose trust over control, you demonstrate to yourself that you can navigate the unknown. Fear diminishes not because it has vanished, but because your relationship to it has shifted. You no longer resist it. You no longer give it the power to dictate your actions. Letting go also teaches humility. It reminds you that you are part of a larger flow, a world of forces and circumstances beyond your full understanding. Humility does not weaken, it strengthens, because it opens the mind to learning, the heart to resilience, and the spirit to courage. When we release control, we are not surrendering life, we are aligning with it. We are choosing engagement over avoidance, openness over rigidity, and trust over fear. Fear cannot dominate someone who is rooted in this understanding because it is met with acceptance rather than resistance. Life will always contain uncertainty. Events will occur that we cannot predict or prevent. Circumstances will challenge us in ways we cannot anticipate. But when we release the need for control and the desire for absolute safety, we step into a deeper freedom. We move through life with presence, with trust, and with courage. Fear may still appear, but it no longer has the authority to paralyze. In letting go, we find the stillness that allows strength to arise, the clarity that allows action to flow, and the peace that transforms fear into a guide rather than a master. Letting go of control and safety is the act of embracing life fully, of trusting yourself and the unfolding of events, and of stepping into fearlessness with open hands and a steady heart. Courage is not always loud. It is not always visible in dramatic acts or bold gestures. True courage often lives in the quiet, consistent choices we make every day. It is the small acts of integrity, honesty, and presence that accumulate into a life of fearlessness. To practice courage daily is to commit to moving forward, even when the mind whispers doubt, even when the heart trembles, and even when the path is uncertain. Each decision to act in alignment with your values, each choice to face discomfort rather than avoid it, each moment of honesty and vulnerability is a seed of courage. Over time, these seeds grow into strength that is steady, resilient, and unshakable. Daily courage does not require grand acts or recognition. It can be as simple as speaking the truth when it feels easier to stay silent. Taking the first step toward a dream, even when the outcome is unknown, or allowing yourself to feel deeply rather than shutting down in fear. Each small act matters because courage is a habit, a muscle that strengthens with use. The quiet courage of everyday life builds a foundation for the more visible moments of bravery that may arise. By practicing it consistently, you cultivate a state of being where fear no longer has the power to dictate your choices. You are no longer waiting for the storm to pass or for life to feel safe. You are moving steadily through it, with awareness, presence, and inner strength. Courage is also a choice to engage with life fully, even when uncertainty looms. It is a commitment to show up authentically, to act despite discomfort, and to embrace vulnerability. Many people think that courage means never feeling fear, but true courage is the willingness to act while fear exists. Each day presents countless opportunities to practice this. It may be in confronting a difficult conversation, taking responsibility for a mistake, or stepping into a situation where you are unsure of the outcome. Every act of engagement, however small, reinforces the understanding that fear is not an obstacle, but a companion to be acknowledged and moved through. The quiet practice of courage also requires attention and presence. Fear often grows in distraction and avoidance, but courage flourishes when we are fully aware of the moment, fully aware of our choices, and fully aware of our own power to respond. It is not about forcing the mind to be fearless, but about noticing fear, acknowledging it, and still choosing to act. Daily courage teaches patience, resilience, and self-trust because it reminds us that growth is incremental. We do not become fearless in a single moment, but through the repeated practice of stepping forward, standing tall, and embracing the challenges that life presents. Practicing courage daily transforms our relationship with fear. When fear arises, instead of retreating, we begin to see it as a signal, a guide, and an invitation to act. Each time we respond with courage, fear becomes smaller, less controlling, and less intimidating. The mind learns that fear does not need to dictate our choices, and that even in uncertainty, we can act with integrity, presence, and confidence. Over time, this daily commitment builds resilience, fortitude, and a deep inner knowing that we are capable of navigating whatever life presents. Courage also nurtures self-respect and alignment with our values. Each day that we choose courage, we honor ourselves and the principles we hold dear. We refuse to compromise our authenticity for comfort or approval. We step into our own truth, even when it is uncomfortable, risky, or unknown. This daily practice builds the quiet power that fear cannot touch because it is rooted in presence, awareness, and alignment rather than external circumstances. The accumulation of these small acts creates a life where fear no longer dictates decisions, where hesitation is replaced by clarity, and where the heart feels steady even in the face of uncertainty. In practicing courage daily, we also inspire others. Quiet courage is contagious. When people witness someone acting with integrity, authenticity, and presence despite fear, it reminds them of their own strength. Each small act of bravery ripples outward, shaping not only our own lives but the environment around us. Courage does not need to be dramatic to be powerful. Its influence is profound precisely because it is consistent, subtle, and rooted in presence. Fearlessness is built through daily courage. It is cultivated in small, steady choices, in moments of honesty, presence, and engagement. Each day offers countless opportunities to practice, and each act, no matter how quiet, strengthens the inner muscles of bravery. Over time, this practice transforms fear from a master into a companion, from a shadow into a guide, and from an obstacle into a teacher. In embracing daily courage, we step fully into life, fully awake, and fully capable of moving through whatever arises. As we journey through life, fear will always appear, quietly or loudly, in moments we least expect. But fear is not the enemy. It is a guide, a teacher, a signal pointing us toward growth, courage, and self-discovery. We have learned that facing fear, rather than running from it, is the first step toward freedom. That understanding fear as a guide, staying present, trusting ourselves, taking small steps, letting go of control, and practicing courage daily are not separate lessons. They are part of one continuous path. Each step we take, each act of attention, each choice to move forward despite uncertainty, transforms fear from a barrier into a companion, from a shadow into a signal, from a voice of doubt into a teacher of strength. Fearlessness is not a destination, it is a practice. It is cultivated in quiet moments as much as in bold actions. It grows when we align with the present, honor our inner strength, and act with intention and courage every day. To live fearlessly is to embrace life fully, to trust ourselves, and to step forward even when the path is unclear. It is to breathe in the uncertainty, hold attention in the moment, and allow courage to guide us, one step at a time. As you leave this space, remember that the power to move beyond fear has always been within you. Each day offers a new opportunity to face the unknown, to trust yourself, to act with courage, and to live awake and fully alive. Step forward gently but persistently, breathe, engage, choose courage, and in this practice you will discover a freedom that is steady, enduring, and profoundly liberating. I wish you all the courage to face every fear with clarity and presence, the wisdom to trust your inner strength, and the joy of living fully without hesitation. Thank you for sharing this moment, for opening your heart, and for choosing to walk a path of fearlessness. Good luck on your journey. May each step you take bring you closer to the fearless life you are capable of living.